anyway, this is the last session, and the new one starts next week.
Yeah.
And so I think they said there was 10 people signing up for next week, so I don't know, is anybody here going to drop? You said you were coming back next time? Yeah.
I signed up.
Yeah, okay. And so we're going to, next time will be, I'll have the Yoga Nidra, but I wanted to not have it, and I want to get some opinion from you all too. I wanted to have, I keep promising this, but I never do because I can't stop talking. See what y'all do, y'all say the stops are off.
This spirituality just brings it all out, doesn't it?
You don't have to shut up and sit down. So anyway, to have do a little bit of Yoga Nidra, and then at least a 15-minute meditation to begin the session, and then we'll move on from that. But to have a little more meditation built into the class, since the name of the class is Awakening Insight Meditation, so we really haven't done much of meditation practice in the class, which I think we need to do. So I'm going to try and get that in next time. But anyway, let's see, what adventures did we have this time? I was talking to Earl, it's like we get in the car to come here in the morning and say, well, what? And we talk about the last week, and so it's like Wednesday is the axis, and so on Wednesday I sum up what happened since the last Wednesday, so it's kind of like I go from Wednesday to Wednesday, and whatever happens during the week then becomes food for Wednesday, so I can kind of like sum up the previous week and to see how it fits into my practice, and I hope that you all, that would be a good practice for you all too, is that if you go from Wednesday to Wednesday, so what happens during the week then is the opportunity where you can use what happens, or interior or exterior, and exterior events or interior, and the trivia stuff is really the most interesting, like the keys.
This is every day, all the time.
Like the little irritations, the little upsets, even, oh my God, I've got ants, but stuff like that. I mean, because none of us are big living in a high-end, New York life, where big dramas are going on. I mean, we're all living pretty mundane, everyday lives, so the small things that are really easier to see and to bring more, flesh out more into integrated look at our life, so that we don't feel like I got nothing to offer, nothing's going on in my life, I'm just boring, everybody else is excited, but mine's just mundane, boring, I'm a loser, that's, but really, hello.
Late, but hello.
Here.
Again.
So it's this. So that's what I come here and so I share what's happened to me, what I've been doing during the week, and what I've studied, because I read a lot in the morning, but I read to apply what I'm reading to a greater understanding of my life and how I'm integrating myself into my life, so that I'm not in resistance to my life, but as you said a little earlier, flowing with it. Life is always changing, so how do you flow with it rather than resisting it, holding on to it. You have to leave the flower pot because the plant keeps growing, and there's a tendency to keep the flower pot, which is like with you, your resistance to using that as a little example, your agitation with the key not being ready is kind of like a flower pot, but the world is a living thing, and so that was the flower pot couldn't integrate this growing inconvenience, you know. So life is inconvenient, but the inconvenience is there, so we can keep breaking our flower pots and include it, you know. So we're constantly, like a plant, will keep including and growing on the nutrients in the soil. So life is the soil, and our life is a plant, but it grows by using whatever life offers, like keys, or a divorce, and, you know, families breaking up or whatever. So all these things are the ingredients with which we can use, if we choose, to grow our life. And so we get that feeling of being alive, you know. And that's why it's so important, I feel, you know, for our age, because I told you this was the 50-plus club, you know, like the first 50 years is getting stuff, or getting married, getting family, getting stuff, and then the second 50 years is letting go of stuff. You know, so we need a different map for the second 50 than you need for the first 50, and society doesn't provide that map. You know, so we have to discover it and make that map work in order to make the second 50 years a living 50 years, rather than, well, I'm just waiting to die 50 years. You know, it's all over. So I hope that, you know, I'm 78, so I'm in a half now. So my wife she works crossword puzzles to keep her mind active with tension. What's the answer?
Will that keep you going? Tension? Then we ought to live a long time.
And I'm not sure exactly what, well, I know, but I guess it's just the awakening of it's the feeling of something is alive in me, I know not what, and it wants to be awake and aware, and it wants to always find greater unities. In other words, like with the keys, when you run into a very simple event, or it could be a traffic ticket, or it could be they didn't give me the keys, or I lost my luggage, or doctor doesn't give me a good report, or whatever the upset is, the living practice is basically using that to integrate it. In other words, it's like the oyster. If you put a sand in the oyster, it irritates the oyster, but it makes a pearl. So when life irritates us, we have the option of getting a festering wound or a pearl. But the irritation is the same. So we can go either way. You know, either we're going to have a festering wound that just keeps festering and festering and festering, or we discover a pearl. You know, but it starts with that irritation. So life is irritating. I watched Zorba the Greek the other day, which was a 1963 movie, and Zorba was kind of like, he just dropped wisdom everywhere, you know, little sayings, you know. So there's I think life is trouble, you know, so I roll up my sleeves, you know. So in other words, Buddha says life is suffering, you know. So it's this whole idea that, or life is change, which is irritating, you know, because change means you got to change. You got to either change with it or resist, you know. So how do you flow with change? You were talking about people today are expected to move every 2 years, where it used to be in a previous lifetime, people had the same job for 30 years, the same place in life, everybody's place was set, and marriages didn't change because they were pretty much set, and the placemats were there, and the men worked at their job in the fields or whatever, and the women worked the house and the garden and stored up the food, and the whole everything. That was the way it just went, Now it's all mixed up and changed, and we don't have the tools in which to flow with change. So we end up out of sync with life. It's like we're out of sync with it because we can't get in harmony with the constant change.
Somebody needs to tell that to the Congress.
Yes. Yeah, you can see that, politics, and you can see these principles unfolding in the news all the time. Is change happens and there's resistance to it, and then those who are resisting get in a group to resist it, or a political party or whatever, or whatever. So anyway, so let's listen to the last Yoga Nidra, and then we can move on. We'll see if we can kind of like sum up some things today. So I guess if you want to turn that, turn the light off, and might as well turn off because last time I found out that pardon?
Was that play on the DVD or just the computer?
No, on DVD like a movie.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, let me see. I had a wedding this weekend. My son got married, first marriage. He was 45, and it was a real great event. We had the wedding. It was going to be in our backyard. We had the backyard landscape, and last year. So it just seemed to be, wow, we have a landscape yard now. We'll have the wedding there. And so we spent a week, weeding and getting, fine-tuning it, and then it rained on Saturday. So, but the house had been fixed up inside, so we just moved it inside. So it was really nice. It was a small wedding, 25, just maybe 25 people. So they had big rooms, and so it worked out just great. And then we had a reception at a local restaurant. And I noticed something, this was new for me because I've been a wedding photographer since 1987, and I pretty much stopped doing weddings. I don't think I've done any now for 3 or 4 years. And but this is the first wedding I've ever been to that I was in, other than the one I married my wife in. This first one, well, I have been in a few years ago, but it's been a while since I've been in it, particularly with it was my own immediate family's wedding. I was the best man. So you can't get more, unless you're the groom, you can't get more into the wedding than that, So, and Janine is, let me tell you what, first of all, let me tell you I guess for the best man, particularly if it's the father, the big moment of the wedding is the toast. I mean, because that's like that's time when you get to speak from the heart and you can address the guest and the bride and the groom, so everybody's listening. Hopefully, got your attention. Everybody, have everybody's attention. That was a big moment, and they didn't. The wedding wasn't well planned out. The disc jockey didn't. He had a microphone, but it was my son's band. So they weren't really experienced wedding or players, So anyway, it was after dinner, so he came up and said, "Well, now it's time for speeches," and he gave me the microphone. So there wasn't any toast. They didn't have any, even though they had a bottle of, a couple of glasses there at the cake. It wasn't like normally. It was the normal wedding is that you cut the cake and you have the toast, and then the bride and groom are standing there with the things, and people will come up, and say something to the bride and groom standing there, and then somebody tells a joke on them or something, whatever it is, so kind of like that. So this was kind of like just, I'm sitting at the table and they're giving me the mic, and nobody want to say anything. So nobody was really prepared. So anyway, I had a seed idea in my mind. And this is kind of like the way I speak. In other words, there'll be a seed idea, and then I will just rip it. In other words, which means that you just let that idea bloom in real time, you know, so it kind of like tells you what to say. And the seed idea was Oscar Myer. So in 1975, we had been in Cleveland. I went up there to be a big yoga teacher and all that, and that fell apart. So we came back to Virginia, and I couldn't get a job. So I ended up driving a meat truck that was out of Victoria, Virginia, and I had to drive 40 miles just to get to it. And then I would drive all day, and this was before supermarkets, so it was Milliken's Meat Transfer Company. And they had these little refrigerated trucks, and he had a fleet of them, and he had a little garage, and it was kind of like he'd be banging on them and trying to fix them and keep them running, you know, and they would go out and break down. And so during the night, a big tractor trailer of Hormel or the big meat packing trucks would come into a little warehouse he had and unload all the meat, you know, and then he would, then they would load the individual trucks for the route, and I'd come in, and the drivers would come in the morning, and there would be, your truck would be ready, and you would open the door, and there would be ceiling to floor boxes of meat, you know, and that was my job for the day. I had to unload that meat. And every now and then there would be a leg sticking out of a quarter of a steer, and it weighed more than me. So I'd have to get that thing off the back of the truck, and I would bring it into this 300-pound butcher who'd be standing there like this, you know. And I'd come in with this thing and but this was before supermarkets, you know, so all the little markets, you still had mom and pop markets, and they all got their meat, you know, like, this ended with the Walmarts and Food Lions and all that. So it's a bygone day. Anyway, on Wednesday, it was Oscar Myer Day, which was small boxes, and I would drive, on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I drove from Victoria to Norfolk. Now that was 100 miles. Anyway, so I drive that, and then drive all day, and then drive home. But on Wednesday, I went to Richmond and delivered to Oscar Myer in Richmond, so I'd take my son with me. He was about 5. He could lift and move the boxes, so he would have a conveyor belt, and he would get in there and help run the boxes down the conveyor belt, and we'd load them up, because he worked with me all day. I love that. So we really bonded. It was really, really great. At the end of the day, truck was empty, and he'd get at the back of the truck, or front of the truck, and come running to the thing and leap off the back of the truck, and I'd catch him. So, so then we went back to Cleveland, and I did that for a few years. Went back, I was sitting in the truck, I started smoking again. I was, I've been a big, pure yogi, no smoking, no drinking, vegetarian, the whole works, And then I went back, I was driving a meat truck, and all my attachments came back, like, I gotta have a Big Mac. And cigarettes came back, and alcohol came back, and I was so disgusted, I was so hating myself. My spiritual vision, of being a big, spiritual teacher and all that, and now I'm driving a meat truck, and I'm smoking, and now I started even bringing home the expired hot dogs, eating the expired meat. I'm really done with it. And I'm throwing the cigarettes out the window with that hand, and I'm really packing Marlboros with that hand. And so this went on for a couple of years, just total self-hate. Unable to, and so finally I got in, suddenly the suffering and the tension of these contradiction. The contradiction of here I am driving a meat truck, smoking, eating bad meat, everything that was vile and disgusting to all these yoga people. Oh, meat, oh, you can't even come in here if you've eaten meat for a week. So I got in touch with my heartfelt desire. What, I just asked, what do you really want? You know, what is your heart desire? You know, what do you want? I wanted to go back to Cleveland and finish my spiritual journey. You know, I wanted to get back on that track. I wanted to get back on that route. This one had contradictions in it, and it was killing me. So as soon as I got in touch with that, and that's why I think in this Yoga Nidra he talks about a heartfelt desire. Wants you to get in touch with that heart, because the heart is unity, right? It's not split, should I do this or that? The heart is, what do you want totally, not either or. Is this a better choice or a worse? Not that, you know. Because that's what I was caught in, to smoke or not to smoke. Well, I wanted to smoke and I didn't want to smoke. And so you go back and forth. So the heartfelt desire is unity. There is no second desire. So when I got in touch with that, immediately the cigarettes and the meat and the truck, everything fell off. And immediately I went back to Cleveland. I got a job, and my family came up after I got a job. So I got back on my track, and of course, that opened up a whole nother level of schizophrenia. But we won't get into that. But the point was for the wedding, was that during that time with my little boy, and I really bonded in the truck. When I went to Cleveland and got back into my schizophrenia, I didn't catch it. In other words, I dropped it a few times. And so the trust was broken. Because that's all about trust. You run a leap off a truck, you trust someone's going to catch you. Well, I didn't catch him for it. That's when I got divorced and all that stuff. So then my son went, when he was 19, he went to California. But something had I knew something had broken in our relationship, and we couldn't get it back. He pulled back. In other words, before I went back to Cleveland, he was, we were just like that, and then now we were, like that. And something, a veil came down. I don't know whether it was, whether it was partly just him getting older. It was part of the turmoil I was going through and put the family through and all that. But anyway, the result was that he left, went to California, stayed out there for 8 years. All his dreams that he had, his love of his life, is going to be a big rock star, is going to be a cartoonist, all these things collapsed. And he came back, and he became an alcoholic for about 9 years. Because of the self-hatred, basically, which that self-hatred I was feeling in the meat truck, so we worked, together. He was at my house, and so we worked together, trying all different kinds of. I was trying different strategies to get him to, change, of course, not drink. And he wasn't just a social drinker. I mean, he would drink to oblivion. Just drink to pass out. So just not conscious. It was a form of samadhi. A form of it was his way of medicating his pain. But anyway, to make a long story short, I learned to unconditionally love him, whether he was drunk or sober, rather than just loving him when he's sober and get the hell out of here because you're drunk, that type of split, So it really did not, I didn't, want him to drink, but I was able to accept him and appreciate him, whether he was either or, because it was a split, 1 minute he was beautiful, the next minute he was passed out. But the whole there, you see, the heart is whole. But he and I were both perceiving him as two. He didn't enjoy being either drunk or sober, either. Either or. How do you get to the wholeness? How do you get to the heart and be whole? So then he met Janine, who had had a broken marriage. She had a husband who, I don't know if he's abusive or just drunk, I don't know what it was. But anyway, she saw something in David, and they hooked up. And so, I don't know what it was, but the combination of the way I was relating to him and meeting her, the drinking fell off. And nothing else had worked, but suddenly it worked, and suddenly he was changed. And so they've been together for about 2 years now, so now they've got married. And so it's been a real life change. It was not just a wedding, you know, it was a real shift in a truck route. So I ended the little story at the wedding, you know, was that, I didn't get into all that, but I did say that, you know, that now David has left his old truck route, and he's starting a new one. And I told him that, you know, that when my truck was empty, I would run from the back of the truck to the front, and I would leave, and I would trust that he would catch me. And then I think I said, I learned one thing from I've learned many practices from the meat truck, and one of them is that deliver everything you've got. You know, empty the truck, deliver everything you've got, and don't keep any back for yourself because the meat will rot. Get rid of it. So anyway, that was my big toast, and it seemed to be well received. But then getting to the Yoga Nidra thing here, this was very, I love this particular last one, which is noticing your personality, and then feel yourself as your personality, and then notice your personality. Or notice that you are, I'm hungry, and then notice that, oh, there's hunger. Like this. You notice that I'm really angry at the people for the keys. I'm angry, I'm upset, but the duality was, well, then I'm not supposed to be, I'm supposed to be patient, but I feel upset, but I'm supposed to be this. So now you've got a duality. So the noticing would be, I notice that I'm split. You see, so I notice, but the noticer is the heart. The noticer is the unity that notices the mind splitting into two, and it can't get back to one. You see, I want the cigarettes, I shouldn't smoke the cigarettes. I need the keys, I'm pissed, but I'm supposed to be patient. You see what I mean? So we can notice that split, and that's the awakening of the heart, because the heart is always one. You know, one life. The heart is life, and it's aware of only life as being one. But the mind, with the personality, is aware of life being two. Me and what I should be, or me and what you should be, or me and what the world should be. So there's always this tension, you see, between me and what I expect I should be, or what the world should be. So it's always two. But the heart says, well, it's really one. You see, but we disregard the heart because our culture doesn't really map this in. You see, the culture basically just maps in the split between me and the world, and we got to fix the world to fit more to me. So I won't be around with all that. So this getting to the heart, you see, basically is noticing these two contradictory elements of our mind. One is, I am hungry, I want a Big Mac. Or, that's me, that's my personality, I want a Big Mac. And then I notice, I just notice the feeling of hunger, but I don't notice, but I disconnect it from the story of me. So there's just there is the feeling of hunger. And then I want the Big Mac. Now that's my story. That's me. And then there's just the feeling, you see. So I can notice both of these. And when I notice both of these, that unifies me and the conflict between I want a Big Mac, but I shouldn't have a Big Mac. In fact, coming home from the airport yesterday, it was about 7 o'clock, and I wanted a Big Mac. So we stopped at McDonald's and went, and I asked Tilly, oh, I don't want a thing. And then she said, well, I'll get me one too. So anyway, so I looked at there, 650 calories. But it was better than the cheeseburger, which was 750. But anyway, so it was a really good Big Mac too. But that kind of like gets back to my meat truck driving, because I really did. I was the yogi. I was the only vegetarian meat truck driver in the world, being good, you know. But I had a Big Mac attack, you know. It was like sex. And the cigarettes, oh, you know. Anyway, and so that's another thing. Repressed, or when you hold back a desire, it doesn't go away. It just becomes erotic. You know, now you want it, like, oh my God, then you, oh God, you know, it's just like the tension, you know, building on the fun, you just can't hold it anymore, and then you go overboard. And then you hate yourself for doing that, and now you're back again here, and this is the story of addiction and the whole thing. You know. Or relationships, I can't stand that person, but I will, you know. And so now I'm back with them again, oh my God, how did I do that, you know? We can notice, this whole practice is developing the stillness of mind so that you can notice these either or dualities of the mind from a position of oneness. It's like if you're in the Blue Ridge Mountains and you stop at an overlook, you can see the mountain and the valley, right? But now if you drive down into now I'm in the valley, and now we're up in the mountain. But if you were at the overlook, you can see both. So this practice is all about finding that overlook so that you can notice the valley and the hill, because you can't have one without the other. So if I want the Big Mac and I shouldn't have the Big Mac, these are a valley and a mountain. They both go together. But we tend to want to separate. Our culture says you can separate the valley from the mountain and just have mountains and no valleys. You ever notice that? I mean, our culture says you can have just good stuff and you never have to have any bad time. Or you can just have health and never have any bad health. And if you do have bad health, well, then we have a whole medical system to fix it and get you back to where it's all good, you see. So we all want to be all the good and get rid of all the bad. But this is the valley and the mountain. You can't have one without the other. But we've lost the overlook. We can't see that. We're either in the valley and hating it, or on the mountain and fearing that I'm going to go back in the valley. So, you see, we're either trying to get out of one, and if we're in the other, we're afraid that we're going to get back into one. So that's what Buddha means when he says life is suffering. Life is suffering when we are in the valley of suffering and we want to get out, and when we're out, we're still suffering because we're afraid we're going to get back in. You see. So we're, you know, both good and bad has an element of suffering in it. And so this practice is saying, well, there is an overlook inside from the heart where you can see both, and if you can see both, you're not that. So this opens up a whole new possibility of being in life if you can awaken that overlook, because then you're not trapped in the roller coaster in the valley and in the mountain, back and forth, you see. There becomes a stability and a peacefulness and a resolution and a creativity to opening up the overlook, you see, because then you know what to do rather than wondering what should I do and asking somebody else what to do. So when the heart opens up, you just know. When the heart is closed, then you have to, either this, and then you weigh this and that, and you build up your pros and you build up your negatives, and well, there's more positives than negatives, so I'll do that, but I still like some of those negatives, and all this, and all caught up in that. So you never get out of the mountain in the valley from that operational point of view. So yeah, this practice has 5 apps, and Yoga Nidra begins with the body, becoming aware of the sensations in the body. Then the next one is the breath, becoming aware of breath. And then the third one is feelings, becoming aware of feelings, which would be noticing the feeling of irritation when the keys are not delivered on time, you know. Then the fourth one is thought, which would be the belief that I'm entitled to having everything work here. I'm paying my rent. You know, that these people are professionals, and I believe they should be a little more professional and aware of my needs. You know, that's a belief, you know. So we begin to notice beliefs. And the final one is noticing the very personality that holds all this feelings and thoughts, you see. That it's possible to, so it's kind of like there's the first two are grounding, where, you know, what do I have that is not mine, that is not changing? Well, body sensations and breath are stable, they're grounded. So once I get grounded in that, then I can move into thinking and feelings and personality, because I've got the ground of body and breath. Because that's life, you know, my sensations, you know what the energy of my life is feeling. And the breath is not governed by my thought or my will. So that is exterior. That is like my personality rests on body sensation and breath. So this is like the water, and then my personality is like a bubble floating on that. So, but we live in the bubble, totally divorced from body sensation, body energy, and breath. This is why yoga and all this stuff has come back in our culture, because our culture and Christianity has not helped, because Christianity separates spirit from flesh. Don't listen to the flesh. Satan's got control of that. You know, that's, you know, the body's fallen. Don't follow your own will. You know, obey the will of God. Don't listen to your will or your body, because it's corrupted, fall, and all that stuff. You see, well, this reinforces the personality floating on the river of body and breath, you see, and the personality is floating up there, concerned about its image. Well, I want to be a good person or a good Christian, so now I'm locked into being a good image, you see. Like I should be patient. That's a self-image that has been inherent, you know, been shaped into you, you know, from to be a good person.
Yeah,
you know.
but that's mental. That's
sure,
not,
yeah, that is the personality, shape of the personality, which floats on the ground of our body energy and breath. So if we notice the personality is, if you look at a bubble, it's like a little, if you're inside of a bubble, you know, you can imagine, it's like a hall of mirrors, you know, all you're seeing. Just imagine if you were living in a bubble, but you didn't know it, and you would look at the bubble, you would see the world reflected on the bubble around you, and you would be like a little viewpoint in the bubble, and you would think that the exterior of the bubble was the real world, you see, and all people and things are running around, but it's like a 360-degree world reflected that the mind sees and believes is exterior. But the truth is that the observer in the bubble and the observed, which is all one bubble. And they have no idea what's on the outside of the bubble. So we're all, you know, so it's kind of like we live inside these bubbles, and all these bubbles are floating on the Western River, so we all kind of like agree that we're all living in the same bubble and that this world outside exists, and that we all, because this is a, if you go to somebody, Aborigine in Australia, they don't see the same bubble we see, you see. They're not civilized, but anyway, so we live in a social, constructed reality bubble that we just agree is all the same, so we can get along together and talk and go shopping and do stuff. Otherwise, it'd be chaos. Nobody would be able to communicate. So we create a language, and we all have the same, live in the same mini bubbles, believing it's one bubble, which we call the real world. But this practice sticks a pin in that and pops it, you know. So the fear is, well, if the bubble pops, then I'm dead. Me is in the bubble, and if the bubble pops, where am I? You know, so this is the fear of death, is the fear of losing what I know, you see. But all the while, our bubble is floating on this river of that we call time, which is energy, and that we can experience as breath, is the rhythm of fluctuating of life, and the sensation of being alive, you see. That's the ground. So this practice basically is when you notice the bubble because of the pain it's causing, you immediately shift your attention to the ground, the breath and the body sensation. So that begins to create the stability of mind, so you can see the valley and the mountain that makes up the bubble. Because the bubble is made up of contradictory opposites. This is getting back to our old figure here. This is the bubble. And the bubble is created by opposites, up and down, in and out, good and bad, pretty and ugly, sad and happy, hard and soft, all these dualities, you see. Is the way the bubble of the mind, that's its operating system. You couldn't operate without this. In other words, we have to know what's good, so I can function. You know, you start out with the baby. Well, that's bad. Don't eat that. That's good. Eat that. You know. So I mean, this is a functional system, but it has limitations. So the first half of life is fundamentally living in this system where you get good stuff and you get rid of, and you don't do bad stuff. If it's a moral system, if it's a moral, ethical bubble you're working in, you have to learn how to behave, and you have to learn, usually by punishment, how, you know, not to behave, you know, so there's a learning there. You have to learn not to eat too many Big Macs. You know, I mean, this is a trial and error, and we go, you know, these are the opposites, you know. So this has a function, but in the second half of life, something else awakens that needs to be addressed, that usually is not awakened in the first half, because all of our energy goes into getting good stuff and not doing bad stuff. So the second half of life is moving to this. which is wholeness, or inner peace, or awakening or awareness, so that there is a certain dream quality to this bubble. We can see it in the news. Why is this happening? Which is the riots in Baltimore structurally is no different from your irritation with the keys not being there. I mean, the keys should be there. Why is this happening? Baltimore, the city should be peaceful. Why is this happening? In other words, it's the same, only on a larger scale, but I mean, it's the same pair of opposites. It should all be positive and no negative. Positive meaning I should have the keys on time. Baltimore should be at peace. You see, so there should be no negative. So anyway, the movement in the second half of life is this way, and it's going to be through seeing.
Or would it be like becoming awake and aware?
Seeing the truth of the duality of the personality. In other words, seeing from the heart that the personality is made up of contradictory imperatives or drives that cannot be fulfilled. I'm in the meat truck and I want a cigarette or a Big Mac, very powerful desire, and I shouldn't. I'm a yogi, I've fallen, I'm disappointed. My whole life was going in that. Now I mean, it's the same as being a drunk. I had all this promise, and now I'm just a homeless drunk. How unworthy I feel. You see what I mean? So this contradiction cannot be solved from inside the contradiction. Because one minute you're here, but the other one pulls you back. And then you're in here, and the other one pulls you back. It's like this and that. If you're on the mountain, the valley's going to pull you back. If you're in the valley, the mountain will pull you back because it's whole. So if you split the whole, each half is going to, you can't leave the other half. It'll pull you back. You see? So this is like a formula for all conflict. So there is no way to get out of the conflict from identifying with one side of the conflict, particularly if it's your own personality. So the only way out is first to see the futility of it. That's the point, is an existential point, where you reach a point where your suffering has exhausted you, and so you, you're doing crossword puzzles, and you can't find that word. And so finally I gotta go wash the dishes. And the word pops in, bang, or you can't, what's the name of that guy down the street? And so you can't do it. So you go talk about something else. James! Right? You relax the struggle, and the resolution pops up. So when you relax the struggle to solve the contradictions of our personality and our world, because remember, the bubble is our world. In other words, my personality is the world I live in. So my personality is a reflection of the world that I create in my personality, and I believe the illusion is that it's out there, separate from me. But the world out there is me. I am the world, and the world is me. So this is a real illusion. This is a big waking up when you see that. So this is the awakening part. Is the awakening of an I, of wholeness. In spiritual maps, it's this third eye. It's one eye. The Cyclops that Odysseus had to get away from had one eye. So this is called the third eye, but symbolically it's a single eye instead of two eyes. You see, so we see through two eyes, left and right. And if they get out of focus, everything is a little blurred. I mean, you need prisms to get the focus back, right? So if your eyes don't focus, the world is blurred and or is out of focus. You see double images. Which one is true? You see, is the valley true or is the mountain true? That's the confusion of eyes that are out of focus. Which image? If your eyes are out, then I know because when I look to the left, my eyes don't focus. So I see two images when I look to the left. So if I look to the left here, I see two bottles. Which one is like that? There's disfocus. We don't know which side is real. I mean, is the left or the right real? Everything is divided into two, and each one has its own logic, and each side is presented as being the true side. You see, so we don't know which one is. So we have to choose a side, but the other side keeps pulling. You see, because it's whole. It's an artificial division. So seeing comes about, first of all, through the pain of this, the intolerable pain of being divided. I'm split into two. I'm divided, and everything, all my strategies don't put Humpty Dumpty back together, right? So when I reach that point, I realized the futility in the attempted struggle to fix myself or the world. I realized that I could not fix my son's addiction. So I stopped trying. And, but that is the first. Then there is a stage of not knowing what to do. Okay. Here you know what to do and it's not working. Back and forth. You realize it's not working, then there becomes a not knowing, and this is usually presented as a question. And the question is, I don't know what the truth is. And I ask, what is the truth here? So this has to be a heartfelt question. The question has to come up spontaneously. And it asks, what is happening here? What is the truth here? So if you're in that little, I hate to use your little thing, but it's a good one, So you're caught in this thing where if you came in late, I mean, she was in a new apartment, they were supposed to bring keys, but they didn't, and they were tardy in getting the mailbox was filling up, so it wasn't the way it was supposed to be. And you were caught in two conflicting imperatives. One of them is the imperative of your nature, which is I'm getting angry here, and the other imperative was, well, I'm not supposed, I should be patient. So this splits the self. Now the pain is not coming from not having the keys, but the pain is coming from splitting yourself. And now in that situation, you don't know which is the real self. You see, should I go cuss them out? Or should I just sit here and be very good? Right. Should I? And you don't know. Because each one has its argument.
That's right.
Each one has its logic. Right? So if you think I'm going to go yell at them, The other one is pulling you back. Oh, you really shouldn't do that. Then you go, all right, I'm going to be peaceful, but so you can watch yourself swing, and then a mono-dialogue starts up. Now you're talking to the key people, telling them what you want to tell them, you see. Or talking to yourself, telling yourself you should be good, right? So you create, this beautiful...
And you're thinking there's something wrong with them, and then you start thinking, no, there's something wrong with me. I'm not being patient. I should be patient.
Right. It's beautiful.
It's a dilemma, I tell you.
So what we're looking at here is the valley and the mountain pulling, because it's whole, and we artificially divide it into two selves. It's like a schizophrenia. There's two people here.
Mm-hmm.
There's the one who wants to be angry and the one who wants to be good. And you can't be one or the other, because you can't leave the other because it's you. You can't lop off half of you. You can't abstract the good from the bad, or the dark from the light, or the valley from the mountain. So the practice we're in here is getting an understanding that this is going on. And then there's this awakening, and the reason you all are still here is because this has been awakened, this curiosity to see. So now something is, maybe you get a little, well, I remember this in the teaching or something, or, there's something going on here I should look at. This is the opportunity. So now this pain or suffering now becomes your happy fault. I love this phrase because it refers to Christ, but it's the happy fault is the happy wound. In other words, this is a wound inflicted in our consciousness that cannot be healed. There's no way to heal this split through willful effort, or through going to a therapist, or getting religion, or whatever. There's no way, as long as you are inside of it, one side or the other, you can't get rid of your other half. You can't get rid of your twin. My dark side, or whatever. You can't split it and just be that. Because it's whole.
Well, then what ultimately,
Pardon?
what ultimately helps a person to do better then?
Well, see, that you have to come to the realization that, and that was in Yoga Nidra, in the I thinking part. Realize that no matter, feel what it's like. Says nothing I can do will make me better than I am right now. Nothing I need to know will make me better than I am right now. So nothing you can do can, there has to be the understanding, nothing, I've tried everything, nothing I can do is going to make me better than this pain. This conflict, this dilemma. The either or, should I do this or should I do that? Or I should do this, but I want to do that. This conflict, you see, is that does
just understanding the conflict make
No,
a person try to do better?
the realization that you are stuck, that it's a straitjacket, the realization that you may struggle, you could struggle for 30 years and not get out of it. It could, whatever. Or it could be your own personality that is constantly dividing the world into, it should be this and I don't like it because it's that, this splitting. The splitting of the world in two creates the suffering that can be either violently go to suicide, or it can just be this mild anxiety or discomfort with life. This kind of like background, things are just not as good as they could be. Kind of background discomfort. Thoreau said that mankind lives in quiet desperation. This quiet desperation type of feeling. Or it could be, you know, I gotta do something, a panic attack. This becomes a panic attack when, a good example of a panic attack is when, you know, if you have a microphone and an amplifier, and you hold the microphone too close to the amplifier, you get feedback. It goes wow, 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 like that. And that thing will work, you see. That feedback happens when these two halves keep reflecting each other in you know, like I'm angry, well, I'll take that little example. I'm upset with myself because I'm upset with the key people. And I'm upset with myself for being upset with the key people. And I'm upset with myself. I'm upset with myself for being upset with myself, for being upset with myself, for being angry with the key people. And that keeps going wow, 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 to the next thing you're in the hospital with a panic attack.
Right.
You see, the self disintegrates because it's two halves. It's like two mirrors reflecting each other. And it becomes a vortex. You know, the hall of mirrors, you put a mirror up to a mirror, and you start saying, well, you know, all the way into infinity, right? So when this thing gets out of hand, it goes like that. You know, it becomes a panic attack. It's a fear of death. It's fear of chaos. You do anything to get out of that. So what holds it together? What keeps us from going, wow, 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 is me. It's this sense of me as a personality. Me is a stable thing. So as long as I believe in me as a personality that is stable, that is rock solid, I can kind of like keep control of this thing, you see. So me becomes a little god. You know, it's like immortal. You know, I'm not going to die. Like young people, they're immortal. After 50, we start beginning to question whether this me has any substance or not. Because things start leaving. You know.
First the hair goes,
Like,
then the eyes
yeah,
go.
so up to 50, you know, me is pretty solid, you know, and I've got this job and all these things, and now everything's falling apart, you know. So now I begin to question the stability of me, you know. So that's part of that whole thing there. But this is what we've created in the West. This is a Western creation, which we call the individual. The individual self as a separate unit from society that stands by itself with rights and freedoms is a Western creation that really kind of came about with the Enlightenment after the Middle Ages. Other cultures are getting a me now that they become Americanized and want to be consumers and buying stuff from me. But me's aren't very strong in other cultures. If you go to a tribal civilization like Aborigines, there's no me at all. There's just the tribe. So there's no, I'm separate from the tribe. I am the tribe. So you can't abstract a tribal person from the tribe. They'll go bananas. You're taken out of their environment is the tribe. Take them out of the tribe, they disintegrate. So we did to the American Indians. We destroyed their tribe, and they collapsed. The Incas, their god, the center that held their civilization was the king, the Inca king. He was the center that held the society together, and when Pizarro, the Spanish conquistador, went to Peru, and they went up to the city, and there were 20,000 soldiers surrounding the square, and there were 200 Spaniards. And the Inca king came down to see who these people were, and the Spaniards captured them. which was unthinkable to them. And the whole army collapsed. The Spaniards just wiped, just slaughtered, just went through it like machetes, they were powerless, the army, because the center was the king, and when you took the center out, it collapsed. So if you take the me out, we go into psychosis. And that's what psychosis is. Psychosis is a mind with no center, so stuff is just happening in there all over the place, and you don't know what's real.
Does it mean psychotic?
Yeah, psychotic, yeah, psychosis or psychotic, that means that there's no center to hold the vortex together. So stuff is just going on and you don't know what's real.
Does that happen to everybody who reaches that point?
No, let's put it this way. If this vortex gets out, if the me is weak and the vortex gets out of control, people become schizophrenics or psychotics, or another way to get out is to have dual personalities. So one side can take a personality and the other side can take a personality. See? But this is like the wound, this is like the wound with consciousness, human consciousness.
Is there a way to transform without going through that trauma?
Yes, the practice you all are involved in, since you're here,
Right.
is how do you
Let the
detach, how do you let go of the dependence upon this me as a viewpoint, which is deteriorating, without going into psychosis or into a vortex? Wow, So basically that's what this teaching is about, giving you a map, like you're Lewis and Clark, when you're going to go out and Jefferson says, all right, now we don't know what's out there. You guys go out there and map it, right? Well, the Western map doesn't have a map for this.
No.
Our maps all tell you how to get a strong me. Keep the me going. Go shopping. Or drink. Or just get a new husband or wife, or whatever. Get a new job.
And the brain, people who just grow up to be, have different personalities, and that must have started from the beginning in the brain. Yeah.
Well, the personality, people are...
The people that are bipolar and things like that.
Yeah, Well, all these personalities are basically if we're invested in a personality, we're neurotic. But neurosis is relative. So there is what you'd call normal neurosis, which we call normal people, right? And then if you go to the extreme where your behaviors are noticeable or dysfunctional, then you would go to a therapist or something to get you back into normal. But if you look at an enlightened person, a person who is over here, if you go to India, there might be some naked guy sitting on a garbage dump. Who would be, people would go putting flowers at his feet because they got healed in his presence. But our culture doesn't have, doesn't have a map for that, you see. Other cultures do. This getting back to this, if you go to a therapist, for instance, and your personality has become dysfunctional so that you can't function in the world, you need to get it adjusted back to a reasonable, normal measure, you see. So we go to a therapist. What the therapist does, basically, is provides a safe space where you can explore the contradictions in your personality, you see. So it's providing a safe space where you can explore without the fear of going into a psychotic breakdown. Because instead of the me, now you put the therapist is here, right? Catholicism had an answer for this with the priest. So if you have a conflict in here, you go to confession, and that was a safe place where you could get in touch with your sins
Become whole again.
and speak them from in relationship with a priest who is not judgmental. You see, so the therapist is not judgmental, because then he's just going to reinforce one of your splits. Well, you shouldn't do that. You do this. You know. So where do you go where this is for equanimity? When it talks about yoga, equanimity is seeing both equally. Where do you go that you can see your contradictions in yourself and the world without judgment? Well, some people go to a therapist, or they have a good friend, or something. So we seek somebody that we can trust other than our me, because our me is identified with this. You see, the me isn't really outside of it. The me is in here split. But we think it's outside, but the me is the split. You see. So, so hopefully this teaching, what we're working with here, is basically a blueprint that gives you an understanding of wholeness, so that you can engage these disruptions in our world from a position of understanding and awareness, so it doesn't become part of the problem. And it switches, you see, this switches the problem from being, oh my God, I can't, I need this and I can't do that, and and she says that, and I want all these splits, you see, it becomes a happy fault. And it becomes, what the happy fault means that instead of resisting and wanting to fix the fault, and the fault is either going to be in the other person or in the world or in me. See, because you were looking at it both there. They had the people with the keys had a fault, but then you discovered a fault in you. Because you were now bouncing back and forth. I'm at fault for being angry. So, so double fault. Right? So the happy fault is where this becomes an opportunity for our practice to kick in. Boom. And then we say, well, what is the truth here? I don't know. What's going on? I really want to look. I really don't know what the hell's going on because I'm locked in here. And with that happening, that opens the window to grace or seeing. And then you can just, oh, I see. Or I remember the name. You see, there's the missing piece. But wholeness comes. Seeing is wholeness. We don't see. It's not like our eyes don't focus and I see two things here. You see, there's only one. If I see two, it's because my eyes are not focused. Here I'm seeing two, either or. But there really is just one.
Is it also like seeing the truth to your desires?
Truth is whole, not two. So this is another way of saying seeing the truth removes the pain of the conflict of a divided truth. See, truth can only be one, but we make it two. So if she's in this thing here, one truth is, I want to go yell at the guy. The other truth is, I shouldn't do it. I should be patient.
You choose the truth.
Well, there is only one truth. You can't choose. If you choose one, the other's going to hound you. You can't separate. You see, you can't choose the valley.
But then what happens if, let's say an alcoholic, if they choose the truth of they want to drink, they go live on the street.
Yes, but they're hounded by the truth of their failure.
Oh, and that's what makes them go and do.
Which makes them drink more to get rid of the pain of the failure.
Okay.
you see. So, it just go wah, 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 yeah, you see. But the heart awakening, or the truth, you see, is that I'm okay, whether I'm positive or negative. You see what I mean? When this awakens, this means, basically, to make it simple, this means I'm okay. Here, I'm not okay. You see, I'm divided. Here, I'm okay. But to get from here to here, you see, I have to forgive myself. I have to accept my division as being okay. I have to, and this is the world again, I have to accept the world as it is instead of wanting the world to be what it should be. And I'm the world and the world is me, so I have to accept myself, but it begins with me. I have to accept myself as being okay if I'm this or that. With my son, I accepted him whether he was drunk, passed out, drooling on the sofa, or playing in his band, being a creative person.
Because they have to come to the realization
They have to see that, but they need a safe, here again, you see, and I'm not saying I did this, but I sensed this is what was happening, was that a safe place was created by our family and by his girlfriend, that created the safe, non-judgmental space where he was allowed to see that he was okay, whether drunk or sober. In other words, he didn't have to avoid being himself. Okay.
Oh, wow, thank you.
It's like the guy climbs the rocky, wintry mountain and finally gets to the top, and the great guru is sitting there.
Yeah.
And so the guy says, "Great master, what is the meaning of life?"
Right.
And the master says, "That's a multiple choice question."
That's a good one.
It sure is.
It was a nice finale to the class,
I've
wasn't it?
practiced that on several occasions since I've been listening to you.